The Enneagram is a personality typing system based on core fears and motivations. I have passionately studied the Enneagram for about 8 years, and I love sharing it with anyone who is interested. My intentions as a filmmaker are not to force you to change your mind about personality typing systems or to make a propaganda film about the Enneagram, but I liked this opportunity to give the Enneagram a chance at a new audience.
The Enneagram is an ancient model of 9 personality types, and it describes the core motivation of each of the 9 types that also defines what people's core fears are, their core issues, and what kind of patterns of behavior come from that core motivational perspective.
It's a personality test that has 9 different types. And within each of those types, it's 1 through 9, and so you also have kind of a wing, which is a type that's adjacent to that number. So for example, I'm a 6 with a 5 wing, and you also have types that you go to, so like this, and it's all like situated in a circle. So I guess I'll just like refer to myself again as an example that I'm a 6, but in times of stress, I might take on sort of like the 3 role, or, and then in times of growth or when I'm doing well, I might go and move to 9 and take on that role. And everybody kind of has their own triangles within that circle. So it's just a really cool personality test that I think is more accurate than a lot that I've seen, and also is really neat because not only do you have 9 types, but within that you have 2 more options within each of those types, and just that you can be very specific and very in-depth then with the analysis of your personalities.
So type 1 in the Enneagram is a person whose core motivation is to do the right thing. They feel very strongly that there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And they're doing this to overcome their own sense of imperfection. They value goodness and really put a lot of focus on being a very, very good person. Type 1 is considered the strict perfectionist. Enneagram Type 2 is a person who's motivated to help those in need. So their motivation is that they have to help. When they see someone who has a need, they will do everything in their possible potential to help people if they can. They are considered the considerate helper, and they are doing this in order to ensure that they receive the love that they desire from people. Type 2 is considered the considerate helper. Enneagram Type 3 is motivated to outshine everybody. They are striving to be successful, efficient, and highly acclaimed for the accomplishments that they create through their efforts. Enneagram Type 3 is considered the competitive achiever. Enneagram Type 4 is a person who's motivated to be unique. They find their way to be original and express themselves in a way that helps them to feel that others will see them as someone definitely different from everybody else. Enneagram Type 4 is considered the intense individualist. Enneagram Type 5 is a person who has to understand the world. This is a person who needs to know so much about something, typically a lot about one or a very narrow area, and they do this in order to feel separate and unattached from others in order to be objective. Enneagram Type 5 nickname is the quiet specialist. Enneagram Type 6 is a person who's motivated to be safe. They feel that in order to achieve the kind of connections and love that they desire, that the more vigilant that they are and the more loyal that they are, they will feel safe and loved. So they look for hazards and risks and threats and protection of others around them. Enneagram Type 6 nickname is the loyal skeptic. Enneagram Type 7 is a person who has to experience everything. They desire to live life like it's a feast to enjoy every day, and in order to then not feel things that are painful or have limits, so they focus a lot of their energy on creating plans and options and adventures. The nickname for Enneagram Type 7 is the enthusiastic visionary. Enneagram Type 8 is a person who has to be in control. They do this in order to avoid feeling their own sense of weakness or vulnerability. They put their focus of attention on being in control, exerting their power, and anything that catches their attention that isn't fair, and really protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The nickname for Enneagram Type 8 is the active controller. Enneagram Type 9 is a person who has to keep the balance, and they do this in order to ensure that they belong and are accepted into relationships that are important to them. And in doing this, they have a tendency to adopt the agenda that other people have, and they do this in order to keep the peace. The nickname for Enneagram Type 9 is the adaptive peacemaker. So the Enneagram is a really complex system when you really start to dig into it. I have provided some really simple descriptions of the 9 types and the nicknames and so forth, but that is simply to give you a taste of the differences between the 9 types. Many people resonate just right away with a nickname, but some people don't, and that's okay. In fact, it's better that people don't quickly jump to a conclusion of what type that they are, because one of the reasons is that when you look at some of the descriptions of each of the 9 types, you're going to see descriptions of the way that type behaves. And some types behave similarly, but they do it for different motivations. And that's what really is the heart of the Enneagram, is the core motivational structure, which I just have offered you. But the behaviors can become very confusing to people.
I learned about the Enneagram during high school, so about 5 years ago, I think, from one of my best friend's parents, who he's principal of our high school and uses it in the hiring process of teachers, and kind of talks to them and uses it as a way to better understand them and kind of relate to them in the workplace. And so I've kind of been very interested in it since then. I was very interested when I first found out about it, and my type and my friends' types, and what that kind of meant as us relating to each other, and my parents' types, and have for a long time studied it fairly in depth, and then still refer to it today whenever I'm talking about personality things or trying to understand people better or myself better.
Well, there are so many benefits to the Enneagram that I don't even know where to start. But when I work with clients in my executive coaching practice and I introduce the Enneagram to them, something that they often say almost every time is, wow, I wish I knew this kind of information about myself when I was young.
I think that it's definitely benefited me just in kind of understanding myself more and understanding what I do when I am stressed and what I do whenever I'm doing well, and kind of how to look at that and understand, am I being healthy? Am I being in some sort of way outwardly mean and not meaning to be? And also just, it's I guess a really basic message, but having a very clear way of understanding that all people process things differently and think differently. So especially lately, I think, things with my roommates even in college, and just kind of understanding what my friends or roommates may, the link between people's intentions and how it can be taken. And so whenever you understand that people think differently, then it, I think, is a lot easier to communicate with people and not take offense to things, and just kind of have a real discussion with people. And I think that in that way has really helped my maturity, both individually looking at myself and also being able to talk to other people.
Do you think that other people could benefit from studying the Enneagram?
Oh, definitely. it's just a great way to kind of know yourself. I think that everybody's always interested when you say or talk about personality tests and like, oh, like I wonder what I am, like, and I'll like talk to about it with someone and they'll be like, well, what do you think I am? Like want to know immediately. And I think that like initially being intrigued just kind of shows how much we all want to know more about ourselves and more about other people. And I think it's very beneficial in, like I talked about earlier, just interacting with people and being able to understand people and communicate with people, because I don't know, it's just so important to be able to actually like have real conversations with people, and it's just a great way to also know yourself and be your best self, I guess you could say. Well, currently in college, I have a lot of career options at this point, and I'm getting to a point that it's very important to sort of narrow those down, I guess. And I would be interested in a lot of things, but also I think that what I have to kind of keep in mind within that is what I would actually be good at and be happy in. So looking at my stronger skills and kind of what environment I thrive the most in, kind of from the Enneagram, and then applying that to potential job possibilities, I think is very important for me to consider and can be very useful in helping me to kind of end up in a job that I will be happy in, instead of just one that it is like it related to my interest, but maybe not something that I'm a right fit for.
This one.
Oh, yeah.
So some people wonder, with 9 personality types, how could that possibly capture everybody? And it is really pretty amazing that it does. I have studied the Enneagram for 11 years deeply. I have used it in my work extensively. I have yet to find somebody who doesn't fit one of the personality types.
Would you say the Enneagram is for everyone?
I think that some people definitely like personality tests or take to them more easily than other people. And so if you don't like personality tests, I could see how it could kind of be like something that you're not that interested in. But I think that even still, the Enneagram is so unique and that it has so many types and goes so in depth that it could still be very useful to, at least, even if you think that it won't be useful for you, to check it out. And I think that everyone can find something useful, maybe some more than others, within the Enneagram.
I've actually enjoyed working with young people in the Enneagram, starting with my own family, because when I learned the Enneagram myself, my daughters were quite young. Katie was 12 and Sarah was 16, and they were really receptive to the self-awareness that the Enneagram system was able to give them, to help them better know what was going on with them. And that is true for adults as well. But as I have seen both my daughters grow into more of young adults, what I really see they've been able to use the Enneagram very helpfully with is what motivates them to make decisions. And there are a lot of decisions to be made in college and beyond. And fundamentally, I also have seen both of my daughters use the Enneagram with their friends and roommates and coworkers, bosses, in terms of understanding where they're coming from. Because once a person really learns what motivates them and how they're wired, I could think of it as our internal operating system. Once we know that we have this whole dynamic, we also understand that so does everybody else.
The cards you see pictured are one of the many ways to begin typing yourself. The process for using these cards is selecting one from each color that best fits you, and from a process of elimination, landing on 2 cards you identify most with. Each of the 9 types are represented 2 times, once in the red, orange, and yellow deck, and the other in the blue, green, and purple deck. This is used as a guideline and starting point to figuring out your own type. What was your process for figuring out your type?
So initially, I was talking to my friend's dad about it and just kind of what it was, but he didn't want to tell me too much without me kind of trying to figure it out for myself, because I think your initial reaction is to be like, well, what do you think that I am? And luckily, he didn't tell me initially. And I took the test, and then the test is, or the online test, where you kind of have to rate, like, are you more this or are you more this? And like, it's a lot of them. I don't remember the exact name of it. And I went through that test, and then it gives you like a ranking of kind of your numbers. And then I took my top 3, the ones that were kind of grouped with like a number and the ones adjacent to them, and read through those on the Enneagram website. And after reading through all of those, kind of came to what I thought that I was, and then read both 6 and 5 really in depth, because debating like which was my core type and which was my wing. And of course my friend's dad had known from the beginning that I was a 6 with a 5 wing, but coming to that process kind of by reading and just a lot of self-reflection, which I think was also just really good for me in the process of having to think like, oh yeah, I am this way, like what does that mean that I am like to other people, and kind of came to it through testing and own like reading and thinking about what I was.
One thing I really love about the Enneagram, and hope that you will too if you have an interest in it, is that you can find information about it all over the place. You could Google and find websites. You can go on Amazon and find a whole host of different kinds of books, from humorous to work-related, and all kinds of different applications. There's now an app for your smartphone that has a great way you can do a card sort and learn about the different types and learn how to interact with different types. It's just filled with information. Or you can be like Katie and have cards and do card sorts and have a really different experience trying to learn the system. It's amazing actually how many different kinds of tools there are. And so once someone really has decided it's a tool and a system they like to learn, there's no void of things that you could go to really that appeal to your style of learning and the depth that you want to go.
I think it could be useful in a lot of ways in college. One, like it definitely helps me understand my roommates and communicate better, and kind of understand like when somebody like just needs everything to be clean and like has to have it that way, and whereas like other people have different standards even like in that basic element. And I also think kind of maybe we try to do a lot of team building and like leadership things, and definitely understanding yourself better is very important for those, and also understanding how other people react with people. So in any sort of like those kind of workshops, if you had to type yourself and then maybe have to interact with people of other types and also your own type, it could be very beneficial, I think.
So in my travels of learning the Enneagram, I have met people who use the Enneagram in a wide variety of different applications. So I've met people who use it in corporate situations, from training to executive coaching to leadership development. I've met people who use it in religious and spiritual applications. I've met nuns, I've met priests, I have ministers who use it in their community. I've met people who use it as teachers. I have met people who are counselors. A lot of people in the counseling profession use it. I have met people who use it simply to learn about themselves and how to be the best person they can be. I've met people who have used it to work with people in jails and the prison systems. It is really up to the individual's purpose in life and how they see the fit for the Enneagram, because it almost fits everywhere. You really should choose to have a desire.